DeAndre Swift is a Philly kid. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about how his progression is coming in, his place in the organization moving forward.
Exactly who they thought he was when the previous regime drafted him. I mean, just a really explosive player that you game plan to get him the ball in space and let him do his thing like they did in Los Angeles, 63-yard screen pass. You just want the ball in his hands as often as you can do it, 15, 20 times a game, whatever it is, handoff, toss sweep, screen pass, downfield, whatever it is. He's just a mismatch waiting to happen.
Let's get to our friend Dan Miller, part of the broadcast team for the Lions. And Dan, I appreciate it. I got to tell you, man, I mean, it's funny. We're talking about Philadelphia's ills right now. I look at this 0-7 Lions team, and I feel better about what you guys are doing in Detroit than I do what's going on in Philadelphia right now. And I hope everybody else is feeling that same way. I know it's tough to look at when it's 0-7, but how do you feel about the way things are rolling towards going forward here with the Lions?
Well, I mean, obviously, Dan, you'd like to have a win. You'd like to get off the schneid and not be sitting there at over. But they've had a couple of them just ripped away from them, one on a 66-yard field goal, one at a 54-yard 54-yard field goal. But I do think your point's well taken. You have to look beyond what the record is right now and understand you've got a new GM and a new head coach for a reason. Because this organization needed some major change. And you traded Matthew Stafford during the offseason. You didn't go out and sign a ton of guys. This was really going to be a year where Brad Holmes, the general manager, Dan Campbell, the head coach, and as you mentioned, Chris Spielman, who's now playing a role in this organization as well, they're going to assess what they've got and hit next offseason with a much more pointed and much more well-understood to-do list. So, look, everything you've said is true. They've played their tails off. They've had one real clunker of a game. That was against the Bengals. Other than that, they've had a tough time putting four quarters together, but they play for this coach. They are fighting for this coach. And the key is that's got to continue. It was apparent very much so in Los Angeles on Sunday where they had a chance at the end, but came up short. But it is a transition and a rebuild that they're not fun. But what you're looking for are signs of how the organization is moving forward, and you're seeing that with the way that they've played.
Dan, I had a conversation with Chris. I texted him the other day because I was talking to Tony Dungy about this. Coach Dungy reminded me that he started his career 0-8, and it was more about changing the culture in the room first because you've got to create a sense of urgency on what is expected with this new group of coaches and front office personnel before you even lay the bricks, like you said, going out and finding players, identifying players in the NFL draft. And to me, that I'm noticing the culture change. And the culture change is playing hard, not surrendering, not putting the hand up. So the culture is, and this has to start with Dan Campbell. Give me your assessment of what Dan has brought to the team so far in your eyes.
Well, I think he laid the foundation for it the day that he stepped in front of the microphone for his opening press conference. And I'm not talking about the biting knee stuff, which is all anybody really seems to concentrate on when it was a 90-minute press conference, but they want to talk
which
about
I liked, by the way, which just keeps scoring.
Well, and you know what, Dan, it was exactly what people needed to hear. And what you have to realize is he was speaking to his players, and I know you know this. He was speaking to his players, he was speaking to the media, and he was speaking to the fans. And that little snippet that every talk show I go on, people want to make fun of it and ask me about it and how silly it was. And I have to tell them, look, it was a 90-minute press conference. I've been through a lot of those. I've been through a lot with the Detroit Lions. And I've been through a lot covering sports here in Detroit for 24 years and being in the business for 40 years. That was one of the best, if not the best, introductory press conferences I've seen. Now, in the end, that doesn't matter. You got to win. But he set the tone for what he wanted to do with this organization from the first day he walked in and stepped behind that microphone. And he told everybody right off the bat, this isn't going to be fast and it isn't going to be easy, but we're going to do it the right way. And the right way is not to try to take shortcuts and sign big money free agents and go out and, try to put this thing together in 1 year. You got to build through the draft, as you alluded to a moment ago. You've got to be right. You've got to identify talent, and you've got to get that talent in here. and develop them into NFL players, guys that earn a second contract, because around here we've had too many guys that haven't earned that and haven't gotten better since they've come here. He's assembled a hell of a coaching staff, and I think he's doing a lot of things the right way. And I think, look, he's a stand-up guy that you want to be around and you want to play for, and I think that that's resonated with the players.
Is Jared Goff the guy of the future for the Lions?
I think that remains to be seen. I think it's been a tough go for 7 weeks. I think that the conversation that a lot of people have had here is, how much can you evaluate him when your receiving core, and the biggest knock is they're not getting the ball down the field, but their receiving core wasn't highly thought of coming into the season, and it's been decimated now by injuries. And you're running a bunch of guys out there that really haven't, for the most part, cracked an egg in this league yet. Now, some guys are taking advantage of it. Khalif Raymond is putting together some terrific games for them and done some real nice things. Other guys are trying to figure things out. I mean, Tom Kennedy's caught now, I think, 1 pass in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown has now played 7 games in the NFL. They thought Tyrell Williams would be their top receiver. He got hurt in the first game of the year. Brashad Perryman didn't work out, was cut before the season started. Quintez Cephas, who was drafted, was a rookie last year, was starting to come on. He got hurt. He's out. So it's a long way of saying I think you need to see more out of him. And Dan Campbell has said you need to see more out of him. But I also think that there's some difficulty in the evaluation process because of what he's working with right now.
DeAndre Swift is a Philly kid. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about how his progression is coming in, his place in the organization moving forward.
Exactly who they thought he was when the previous regime drafted him. I mean, just a really explosive player that you game plan to get him the ball in space and let him do his thing like they did in Los Angeles, 63-yard screen pass. You just want the ball in his hands as often as you can do it, 15, 20 times a game, whatever it is, handoff, toss sweep, screen pass, downfield, whatever it is. He's just a mismatch waiting to happen. Their 2 running backs, he and Jamal Williams, have been really good together. Unfortunately, sometimes the scoreboard has dictated that it's kind of taken them out of the game in terms of the running game. But if you look at that and you say, okay, where's the strength, where's the weakness, that running back crew with those 2 guys at the top right now is a strength.
I know that you have to run. You have another appointment at the bottom of the hour. A couple last questions here for you. And I want to throw this out there to you about Chris Spielman. And I know that when you're around him, it's like you're on 70 cups of coffee. So you always have to be prepared when you're around Chris Spielman. I'm there with Mark Spindler in Detroit, and we're going back and forth. We're doing wrestling. It was a wrestling match every night, but the guy was so freaking competitive. I think the one thing that Chris has put an injection into that organization, Dan, it's a sense of urgency that some places don't have. And you could see him walking around. His brother, Rick, has done a pretty good job in Minnesota as general manager there. So football is in his blood. This is something that he really likes. I'm just wondering, can you feel some of that influence of what he's brought to the organization?
Yeah, I think you can. And I'll tell you what, Dan, they needed to bring the building back together. The building had been fractured with everything they had gone through with the previous regime. And it didn't work, and it's not, necessarily an indictment on them. What they tried didn't work, and things started to fracture. They had to get every department, not just football, but sales, media relations, public relations, everything back together to feel like they're a unified organization and that the Detroit Lions mean something to one another. Everybody understands the importance of one another and that they're going to do this together. And that started with the hiring of Chris. That was the vision that Sheila Ford Hamp, the team owner, had in bringing him back and making him part of this thing. He brings the tradition of the team. And look, the tradition isn't the winning organization that everybody wants it to be, but Chris Spielman is the Detroit Lions. And he is the good part of the Detroit Lions. He is the guy that when you walk through a parking lot, he resonates with fans. They love Chris Spielman. So to get him back in there and to have him kind of spearhead part of the bringing the organization back together has been impactful. And you said it. I mean, he's just a good guy who does things the right way, and is so much more than a football player in terms of being a man, being a father, being a friend, being a member of this organization now, that it's been a great move. And let me add this, he is going into the Pride of the Lions, so his name will forever be up on the wall of the stadium as of this Sunday, which is a well-deserved honor.
In closing here, I'll just tell you this, Dan. I mean, I had a cup of coffee up there in Detroit, and I will promise you this, that fan base, if they had another year where you saw, like maybe back in the Wayne Fonts year where they went to the NFC Championship, those fans used to come out and watch us practice over near the Silver Dome there all the time. It's a great fan base. It's been a depressed fan base because of the teams not winning, but don't kid yourself. That, not you, but this, but I'm talking everybody out there listening. It's a hell of a fan base when they're winning, and they just want to see some winning football. And I think you guys got the group there to get this thing turned around. And I'm expecting great things out of you guys over the next couple of years. Have a great call this weekend, Dan.
Dan, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
You bet. Thank you so much. Dan Miller, part of the broadcast team for the Lions. We'll get back to your thoughts. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.